Hello, this video is for my freshman level students. I'm going to talk about what we're going to do this week and next week. Since, we're getting close to the end of the quarter, we'll be opening up some of our class time next week to catching up, turning in late work, that kind of thing. I'll talk more about that next week. But this will be a 2-week video because I won't really have too much that's new for you next week. So, yep. Let's go ahead and get started. Let's talk about what is on the agenda. So if you first go to the Canvas homepage, you'll see that I have a big announcement at the very tippy top of the page. It's reminding you that our last day for late work is coming up on March 22nd. And just to avoid any confusion, if you're not sure what assignments were recorded into the gradebook, which assessments I'm looking at to show evidence of your learning and your understanding in my class, well, I did you a favor, and I have them listed right here in order. So if you're not really happy with what your grade is right now, or maybe you've just been napping a little bit too much during the quarter, or, maybe something else got in the way that's far more serious and, needed a lot more of your attention, that's okay. It's not too late for you. We still have 2 weeks before March 22nd. That is plenty of time for you to catch up. And of course, if you need any help doing that, I am here for you. Just reach out through the proper channels. Okay, reach out to me using this inbox feature on Canvas, and we'll get things figured out. So anyways, if you go to modules, you'll see there's not too much open this week. I have not added that much new stuff because we just have a little bit to go on our Greek mythology unit. And so last week, we listened to our podcast. We listened to the third part of the 4-part series. It was titled Return to Ithaca. Okay, you guys did a quick little summary. We learned about how to summarize literature, how to analyze it, how to make sense of it, how to find important main ideas. And what we're going to do this week is we're going to finish up the story and we're going to learn something. Okay, so if you click 7.4.5, you'll find the next podcast. Of course, if your Spotify player doesn't want to work with you, you can just scroll to the bottom of the page, and I have another link that will give you another audio recording of that podcast. But what we're going to look at today is, or what we're going to look at this week, is we are going to learn about the hero's journey. Now, we touched on the hero's journey a little bit before in first semester. If you remember around Halloween when we watched Over the Garden Wall, okay, we talked about Joseph Campbell's 12-step hero's journey process before, and this is supposed to be a little refresher for you. So, I'll just go ahead and read this out loud. If you remember from semester 1, we learned about Joseph Campbell's hero's journey. When people discuss the hero's journey, they're referring to a common storytelling theme that occurs through the conflict of a single heroic character. It follows the protagonist as they encounter a problem in their home world that pulls them away to an unordinary world. Okay, these worlds are different. They're new to them. They're full of dangers and scary stuff. So during their journey, they will make friends, learn from mentors, encounter trials, overcome challenges, survive life or death situations, earn a reward, and return home as a newer, more confident version of themselves. Okay, they finally are a hero, and they take the lessons they've learned to make their home world a better place. And so we tie this in with what we've learned so far about the Odyssey. The story of Odysseus follows the hero's journey cliche. Though it might seem like a common storyline today, the Odyssey was one of the first recorded stories that follow a hero overcoming incredible adversity. Can you see the ways Odysseus compares to your favorite Marvel hero? So I want you guys to think about that. Think about your favorite hero. Could be DC, okay? Could be anime. Doesn't matter. What's their origin story like? Does it follow that theme about the hero's journey? I don't know. But anyways, the question that I want you guys to answer after listening to the podcast, in many cultures, epic myths like the Odyssey were used as educational tools to instruct young people the ideas and values of a culture, thereby passing the ideals and values to a new generation. What values might Odysseus have represented? Does Telemachus, or Telemachus, as they pronounce it in the podcast. I'll be honest with you guys. I've been pronouncing it Telemachus like my whole life, so it's kind of, I'm going to switch in between the two. It's going to be confusing. I apologize. We'll call him Telemachus since the podcast calls him Telemachus, though. Anyways, My final question here: does Telemachus possess the same ones, the same values? So, I want you guys to think very deeply about this question. I want you to write your responses. If you come up here to the top and click Submit Assignment, a text box will open up at the bottom of the page. You'll type in your responses to the question there. And I want you guys thinking more deeply about the hero's journey and how we learn through characters' experiences. It's been a big theme throughout this entire year. All right, so that brings us to the big project. All right, it's the end of the unit. I have to give you guys an end of unit test, and I really want to have you guys work on a project that reflects to me what you've learned about being able to make a claim and back up that claim with evidence. We've also worked on your skills with summarization, how to write summaries in response to literature. So the project that we're going to do is we're going to create a one-pager. And if you look on to the module, if you go to the very bottom of the module, okay, there will be two items down here. First of all, there's going to be a discussion where I want you to reflect about what you've learned throughout this whole entire unit, okay? And what you're going to do is you're going to pick one of these prompts. The first prompt asks you to discuss how Homer handles revenge in the Odyssey. Okay, consider not just Odysseus, but also Telemachus and Poseidon and their ideas and thoughts on revenge. Okay, if you don't like that prompt so much, you can answer this one. Explain how the struggles of Odysseus to reach Ithaca are a contest between Poseidon and Athena as well. Okay, so how are these other gods playing their own games, and how are their games affecting the world of mortals where Odysseus lives? Okay, well, if you don't like either of those two prompts, there's one more that you can choose from. You can answer this question down here. In what ways does Odysseus develop as a character as the story progresses? Think about what we learned in semester 1, what we learned about characters, and dynamic characters especially, those characters that change and grow and learn something new. Also appreciate the art. Okay, look, there's Odysseus, his men. Looks like they're being attacked by the sirens. Fun. Okay, well anyways, here's the big one. Here's the big project. So if you go to the one-pager page, one-pager, applying what you've learned, you're going to see this assignment right here. And we've been working with summarizing literature, making claims, backing them up with evidence, and I want to see you guys use those skills in action. And what you're going to do is you're going to create for me a poster, a one-pager, which serves as both a written and illustrated summary of what you learned in our reading from a couple of weeks ago on 7.3.4 Poseidon's Son, the Cyclops excerpt. Now, if you forgot what that looked like, I'm going to open this up in another page so you can see it. It was this story. This story. Remember how we read about the Cyclops, and we read about how Odysseus, in all his cunning and, and being just a clever, smart guy, was able to defeat the Cyclops and help his men escape from the cave. All right, and so we read that story together. I want you guys to summarize this for me like you did last week, only this time you're going to add pictures to it. And so what you'll do is you'll create what's called a one-pager. And so the purpose of this one-pager is to own what you're reading. We learn best when we can create our own patterns. A one-pager connects the verbal and the visual. It connects the ideas and what you read to your thoughts. It connects words and images while summarizing big ideas. So you'll create a one-pager based on the reading you did on 7.3.4 Poseidon's Son, the Cyclops excerpt from the Odyssey activity. You're gonna create a one-pager, and you're gonna make it in a way that a reader could easily understand what the content of that story was from your pictures and from your writing. And it is important that you use key details that not only you've read about, but maybe some details that you picked up in the podcast as well. That's okay. If you want to take what you learned about the Cyclops in the podcast and add that to your one-pager, that's fine too. But what you're going to do is you're going to use both the short story and the podcast to explain the battle between Odysseus and Polyphemus, the evil Cyclops. You can either draw this assignment by hand, or you can illustrate it digitally online. I will accept both versions. And so what's important for you to do? Okay, you need to do all of these. Okay, you need to pull out key quotes. So go to the reading, find quotes that support your interpretations, and use them to explore your own ideas and write them on the page. I want you to paraphrase the material that you read. I want you to paraphrase the story in your own words. And I want you to draw images and pictures and diagrams. I want to see a lot of color. I want to see a lot of visuals. I want to see you ask questions. I want to see you ask questions, and I want you to answer them. And like I said, lots and lots of color. Use lots of color. Here's what you should not do. Do not merely rewrite the text. Okay, you can use quotes to support you, but don't copy big old chunks from the story. Write with your own words. Don't be restricted by the lines on the paper. Get creative. Work outside the lines. Do what you need to do. And don't think just a half page will do it. I need you to make this a full page. And so if you want to see what I'm looking for here, I have this really strong example from a student from last year. And what she did was she kind of found this layout, and she filled it in with a couple of interesting things here. And so in the first box, she writes a summary of the story. Okay, after being trapped in Cyclops' cave, several of Odysseus's men were eaten, yada, yada, yada. Okay, she asks herself questions. What happened in the Cyclops cave? She answers. Odysseus's men get eaten by Polyphemus, but make a plan to escape. She asks another question. She comes in with another answer. Okay, so we see her drawing pictures of Greek heroes, Greek archers. She has a title in the middle, which I think looks pretty cool. And underneath it, you can find that she pulls quotes from the story that support her reasoning. And she drew this beautiful looking picture that depicts the one-eyed monster Cyclops. Okay, we see who I assume is Odysseus down here, stabbing him in the eye. And then we also see the Greek god symbol for Poseidon, who, if you remember from the story, Poseidon is the Cyclops' father. And that's who he prays to get revenge on Odysseus. And so I think it would be best if you do this by hand, but if you don't have the supplies at home, that's fine. What you will do is you will open up this slides presentation, you'll make your own copy, and in the slides presentation I have a whole bunch of different layouts that you can use, and then you can just, using Google Drive or using your PC's paint feature, you can color in and fill in and put all the information here in these boxes on your own. So we'll talk more about that during our Zoom calls. But I just want to show you a few more examples of some one-pagers that I think that you would like to look at. And so if we go to our table here, okay. So this is probably like, from the content that this student chose to include on their one-pager, this is a very strong example. Okay, they find good examples of quotes. We have a quote up here at the top. About Odysseus giving the wrong name to Poseidon. Down here we also see another quote that shows Odysseus talking to the Cyclops about what his real name is, kind of taunting him a little bit. We see some questions and some answers here. We see some key bullet points. My only big criticism about this one is that the student chose to draw mostly in pencil. And so as you can see on the overhead projector camera, it's really hard to make out some of the finer details of this drawing. And it's a really good drawing too. We see Odysseus right here stabbing a one-eyed monster in the eye with what we assume is a spear. And that's the first example that I wanted to show you. Okay, this next one, again, it's not super strong on the art. You know, I see a lot of beautiful color here. I see a lot of background in yellow, the red underlining, and the blue. The only picture that we see is this really, really tiny dime-sized picture of Polyphemus there. So, you know, I wish the student would have used more pictures. However, like this other example that I was showing you, okay, a lot of really good stuff as far as the quotes go. A lot of strong questions and even stronger answers. Not only that, but they came down here and they identified the conflict for us in the story. Okay, they informed us that this is man versus man, man versus Cyclops. The epic hero qualities that we see in Odysseus are bravery, intelligence, and leadership. We also see that his human weaknesses are his pride, so his fear, and him taunting Cyclops. And I mean, this wasn't part of the assignment, but I'm so glad that this student chose to include these observations, because I mean, they're doing some really good stuff here. They're making some big ideas and sharing them with us in an easy to read way. So that's another good example. Now this next example, this is not a student that speaks English as a first language. Okay, this student, academically, still has a long way to go, and was making some big gains last year, was doing a wonderful job. And you can tell that they put a lot of effort into their one pager, and I'm really proud of what they did. But I mean, you can even see that, even if you struggle with English, if it's something that you're not good with, if you struggle with writing and getting your ideas on paper, I understand that we all are learning at different levels and we all are growing as best as we can. And I'm taking that into consideration when I grade these. So I know what you guys are capable of, and this student went above and beyond. Yes, they still struggle with writing organization and writing complexity. Okay, that's not I understand that, and I'm willing to work with you guys on that. But we can see that the students still put forth so much effort into their one pager. Okay, they include notes. They talk about what the Cyclops ate. They talk about how they trick the Cyclops into getting drunk. Okay, we have a quote here. I'd like to see more than one quote from you guys, but for where the students at, did a wonderful job. The quote was, nobody tricked me, nobody ruined me. And as you can just see through this illustration, this is a beautiful illustration of the Cyclops. He looks mean, he looks ferocious, and really tiny up here at the top. I don't know if you see that, but we see a shadow with a spear coming for his eyeball. And I just thought that was so cool, I wanted to share with you. And then the last example I have, this is similar to that other example that I have for you on the webpage. But this student also chose to break it down into fours. And so the first box we see illustrations, and I really love their artistic representation of the Cyclops here. Okay, it kind of looks like Mike Wazowski from Monsters, Inc. And whatever your artistic representation of the Cyclops is, I encourage you guys to be creative and have fun with this. The quotes that we see, we Cyclops care not a whistle for youth, or for thundering Zeus, or all the gods. Nobody's my meat, then after I eat his friends, others come first. There's a noble gift now. So we see these quotes that show who the Cyclops is. Over here we see a summary, just like before. After being trapped in Cyclops' cave, several of Odysseus's men were eaten. And then we also see questions. It would have helped if the student answered those questions. Don't just give me questions without answers. If you're going to write down questions, make sure that you explain to the reader what those answers are. So those are just a few examples of this one-pager assignment. I know this video has gone on a bit longer than usual, but remember, this is going to be the only video you get for this week and next week. So I hope it helps you out. And of course, if you guys have any questions or need any help, you know how to reach me, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Thanks for watching.